We are very excited about Like a Girl season 2. And not only is this an incredible time for this show to be coming out, but MJ and I are also executive producers on the show as well. So it's not just that we are hosting, but we are also pouring ourselves into the interviews and the incredible athletes and figures that we're going to talk to on the show. I am a former athlete. MJ is obviously a former cheerleader, which is also an athlete. And we feel very strongly about not just sports, but obviously women's sports and being able to tell these incredible stories of these athletes and what they're doing in their sports and who they are as people and their stories. And storytelling is such a huge part of not just what brings in fans, but also brings in funding, which is a massive part of why the equity space is so large for women and men's sports. So there's so much going on with the show that we're excited about, but that's just a little bit of what we're doing.
Yeah, I think for us, we've been very connected to this for pretty much our entire lives, and it feels like the rest of the world is finally catching on to what we already knew, what women who have been athletes their whole lives already knew and already invested in themselves, right? Not just the time and the dedication to the sport, but the love of it as well. So to be able to tell these stories and to be as intentional as possible about the stories we tell, how we tell them, and giving not just the platform and the voice, but really the equity to these athletes is really, really important for us. And it's putting the spotlight on the fact that they are athletes. They are career athletes. They've been doing this, most of them, since they were children, just like the male athletes that
Yeah.
we see so much on the mainstream. And to be able to have them tell those stories to show this is what it's taken for me to get to this point. This is how much I've poured into my passion, to my talent as an athlete, and to tell that story without it having to be this just like a feminist movement, which we very much are, but the equitable part of it. Like, we're doing the same things that the men are doing. It's that finally people are paying a little bit more attention to it.
And it's a coming together of a bunch of different moments. And
Mhm.
why we keep saying storytelling is because, to your point, that is such a gap. The coverage that women's sports gets
Mhm.
is not the same as what the men's sports get. So
Right.
the men, you do tend to learn more about male athletes, where they come from, what they're overcoming, what their challenges are, what their families were like, what kind of food they like to eat,
Right.
all of these
Yeah.
things, because there's just more coverage. So, there everyone has unique stories and struggles and things that they've overcome, but really getting to know the person. And honestly, also, as MJ said, these are athletes. So how do you train? What do you love about the sport? What is your approach to and mentality on success in this space? What are your philosophies on, the changes that are coming to the sports? All of those
Right.
different things we'll get into on the show. So it's not just about, the hardships that women face and the equity issues that we have in women's sports, but also just the same type of things that the men get asked in all of these interviews is what we'll be
Right.
doing as well.
Is this just a brief moment in time and things subside? I understand there's not a Caitlin Clark necessarily that's going to be playing college basketball next year, at least. But is this something that can be built on and can be grown, or is this something that's just here for a moment and then is going to go away?
No, it's going to continue to grow. Keep in mind, Paige Buckers is going to be back there.
Yeah.
Juju is going to
Juju.
be back. Like, there
Yeah.
are a lot of stars that we talked about this year in the tournament who are still in college basketball, who we're going to get a chance to see next year and get to learn more about and build on all the attention that this year's tournament had. But on top of that, what's happening with women's sports right now is really a culmination of a couple different things. One, it is that sports and news or breaking news or politics are the last thing that we watch live, really.
Right.
And you have to be in front of your television to see what's happening with these things. And because of that, sports rights in general and sports coverage is at a premium right now and will only continue to go up because that is our habit at this point. So
Yeah.
sports in general, the coverage, the attention, the eyeballs is going up. On top of the fact that sports has had a very clear crossover with entertainment, whether it be music,
Mhm.
whether it be movies. So television shows. So there's so much podcasts. Everything is just in one bucket right now of entertainment. And so those two things are happening. You also have obviously some very transcendent stars, which any production needs, and you have real talented stars with very compelling storylines. So those three things. And then also, of course, we are standing on the shoulders of giants, women who have worked very hard for many, many decades to build these platforms, to advocate for money and for support and for resources, for gyms, for training, for coaching, all of those things for many, many years to build up the places that these women can go and become great athletes and train to become great athletes and get the best training and get the best recovery and get the best nutrition and all these things. So many women have put in so much time and energy for many, many years to create these platforms for female athletes to participate in. And you see that not just with women's basketball, but all around the world. I mean, we can talk about the women's World Cup team over and over again, similar to women's tournament. We talk about the U.S. women's national team more than we talk about the men's national team. And that is a reflection of all of those things, but also the work that women have done for many years to help create those spaces.
I think to Joy's point, look no further than Caitlin Clark on SNL, right? Immediately after the tournament was over. I think the crossover appeal is huge, having the platform and the visibility. But I think what I love the most about the stories behind these women is that in spite of the minimal resources and how steep the climb was, it never diminished the level of talent. It never diminished how hard they worked towards it. And they certainly were not looking at themselves, neither were we, as the lesser than in terms of the bigger sports landscape. So it's really refreshing that finally they're getting, although not as much as they should, but finally getting a slice of that admiration that they should be getting. And I love that there are these like chippy storylines, right? Especially just coming off of the heels of the NCAA women's tournament. But also, beyond that, even though there were these storylines that seemed a little polarizing, the unity amongst the women never wavered. And that's something that we talk about on the show as well, leaning on other female athletes, because for so much that we got. That's the only thing. You only have one another to lean on. And that's also a really empowering thing.
How cognizant were you both when you were making the show? There's going to be young girls that are watching this, and how inspiring this must be, whether it be they want to be journalists or hosts, or if they want to be athletes. How cognizant were you that this could be really inspiring for young girls out there?
I mean, yes, at every turn. I mean, we're aunties. Joy has multiple generations of nieces and nephews, but we always have that in mind, right? About that next generation. And even for us in the broadcast space, knowing that there's a reflection of the young girls who admire us, who look like us, who are just trying to see that these things are available to them. And then you extend that into the sports world for all of these. I mean, I've been to more softball games and youth soccer games, and it's just incredible to see how hardcore and how hard these girls go. And so now that they have this platform and now an entire show that is dedicated to this, that goes a really long way.
That's incredible. If you can say, and obviously season one, there were some big guests. Were there any dream guests? And or if it's not filmed already, is there anyone that you're really hoping to get? Is there anything you can share about who you may talk to on season two?
Well, we can't share too much yet.
Right.
I will say
I understand.
We are very excited about we're excited about all the episodes, but how do I say this without revealing? You're very good. You're good, you.
No, I'm not, but
I'll tease. There's a lot of LA. You're gonna see some fun LA things. So if you are a Los Angeles fan, then you will get to peek behind the curtain of some of our favorites in Los Angeles. So I'll say that. I think what's really special about the show, outside of obviously we're being able to highlight some incredible athletes and like I said, figures in women's sports, and give an incredible platform for us to learn about them and their stories, is really special for me to be able to work with MJ on this project and executive produce it. MJ, as she mentioned, we are aunties. We have known each other a very long time. We went to college together at Barry University and have come up in this business step by step together, almost completely aligned, to the point where we
parallel.
Ended up in Los Angeles together.
That's
and so outside of us being best friends, we have bestie tattoos.
Literally.
Right. I had no idea about that. I didn't know you went to school together. How
when
cool
our powers unite.
How amazing, how exciting is, like, imagine making a show with your best friend. Like, how cool is that?
Oh, it is very cool.
It's been what, like a decade since the last time we actually co-hosted something. So in our early days when we were still in South Florida, again, like she mentioned, it was like, hey, they're looking for a reporter for this, they're looking for a host for this. We would just like put each other on. So we worked alongside each other, but it's been a minute, even though we're constantly together. It's been a minute since we've been able to co-host something. So it literally is a full circle moment, and to have this be a woman-centric show highlighting female athletes could not be more perfect.